Hi, this is Sam Botstein from MachineSkills.com. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube for all of our machine tutorials, and check us out at MachineSkills.com for our new courses, all of our sounds, and of course, all of our machine tutorials. In today's tutorial, we're going to take a look at layering samples versus layering drum synths, and the different things that you can do with both of these techniques. And in order to do that, I've made 3 kits, which are very different sounding, but each of them features the same exact pattern. And first, we're going to look at some super basic examples of layering technique in kick and snare and samples. Then we're going to repeat the process over in these drum synths. And then finally, we're going to look at a kit which is 50-50 samples and drum synths. So first thing we're going to look at is layering an acoustic vinyl sounding kick with an 808 kick or anything else with sub-frequency content. So you'll hear that these have a lot of cool things going on. We have some nice dirt and body to this acoustic kick. And in the 808 here, we have both a click at the beginning and some sub content. Together they sound like this. Over on the snare, we have sort of a similar thing happening. We have a lot of dirt on the end of the note, almost like it's been downsampled. We have a nice click at the beginning, and over on the 808, we have some pseudo-harmonic content, and we have a nice, strong transient at the beginning. Together they sound like this. I'm using this other snare as a sort of low-grade version of doing a kind of ghost note kind of thing. If you check out our new course, we'll talk about how to use ghost notes in Maschine. And the hi-hat is just a sampled hi-hat. Altogether, the kit sounds like this. This is not much, it's just an example, but you can see that it's the start of something. If we didn't have the layering going on, it would sound pretty empty. Let's hear it the other way, just to further illustrate this. This just kind of sounds like a sad 808 pattern. But when layered up, it's the beginning of something. You get the idea. You could further dive into this by EQing each of the layered sounds. We have a bunch of tutorials on layering on MachineSkills.com, which you're happy to check out. Let me know in the comments, and I'll either make a video to explain what you're asking, or I'll direct you to a video we've already made. Let's do the same thing over on the drum synths. So we have the same pattern here, and you can see that we have these drum synths loaded from the Maschine 2 library. These are presets, actually. I haven't changed anything, so you can try this at home really quickly and easily. What's going on here is we have this rasper kick, which sounds like this. It has sort of an acoustic sound to it, but it's obviously totally the opposite of acoustic. It's synthesized in software. The difference between repeating this process in the drum synths from the samples is that we have different controls. So if we hop over to our plugin controls in the sound section, you'll see that we have all of these different controls over the drum synths. And we have tutorials on the drum synths, but the thing to pay attention to is that instead of pitching around the sample, we can tune with a pretty good degree of precision exactly where we want our kick to be. If you check out the Maschine manual or future tutorials that go into detail about what each of these parameters mean in the drum synths, you'll see that you can actually, with very informed knowledge, cut out specific frequencies, play specific notes with the drum synths as well. So the rasper is pretty well named. You can hear pretty well in this preset that we have a saturator to make it sound like tape. We have an EQ, which will help with our layering, as I suggested. And we have a Transient Master. Transient Master is something that I highly recommend using on machines built in drum synths. it's difficult to get the right kind of control over the transient without it. Essentially, if you just have decay and some other, sort of nebulous decay control, it's going to be a little bit tougher to dial in exactly where you want, but to have a simple control that has depth as well as an attack and sustain control goes a really long way. Okay, moving on to the sub, it's again pretty well named. This is a deep sub kick. Together they sound like this. Those drums are not necessarily dope in terms of the pattern that I've just copied over. It worked a little bit better on the samples, but they do knock. This is a good start of something here. Over on the snares, we have the same kind of thing happening. This sort of has the feel of an acoustic snare. Again, it is emphatically not. It's totally, completely software synthesized in real time. And we have a counterpart to it, which is a very electronic snare, sort of like the 808 snare. It doesn't sound anything like an 808 snare, but it is in the same sort of spirit. It's supposed to sound like an analog synth snare drum. Together they sound like this. The difference in using the drum synths is that here we actually have the ability to tune them together if we wanted to. And what I actually just did there is I heard right away that things were way too long, and I've tightened them up with this decay control. I could actually dive in further and do this on the actual Transient Master effect. Because the Transient Master is a DSP thing and the attack and decay controls on your Drumsynths are a sort of software synthesis thing, they will actually sound different. So if we turn this up and this down, we're going to get a really different result if we turn this up and this down. So it isn't just about depth or just about sound. I would definitely play with the two on each of your Drumsynths to get just the balance you like. So altogether, this kit sounds like this. This works in a kind of different way. Here, we're definitely sounding more electronic. It doesn't sound as sort of old school hip-hop in terms of the sort of vinyl distortion sound. But over in the samples, we've had a lot of things that we were able to do. In so many other tutorials, I've shown how to use the FX filter section, the envelope section, the modulation, the LFO, the velocity mapping, all sorts of different things. So I think the best thing to do would just be to split the difference. Now, what would have been amazing is if this combined the best things of both. What this actually does without a lot of tweaking is combine elements of both. So here you get the idea. The hands-on control of the Drumsynths is very useful, but all of the options in Machine's pretty advanced sampler are equally useful. So if you're ever having trouble in terms of sound design, making your basic groove, maybe consider switching over to a Drumsynth or other VST software synthesizer or something like that. And if you're having trouble on the software synth end, and our videos aren't going to help you out somehow, I would recommend checking out the sampler. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube for all of our machine tutorials and check us out at machineskills.com.